Concerns are growing that the Chinese Communist Party has used sister city affiliations to influence and infiltrate the United States. In March 2021, Senator Blackburn introduced legislation titled Sister City Transparency Act. The proposed bill, if passed, would direct the U.S. Comptroller to evaluate the activities of sister city partnerships in the United States.
The United States of America and the People's Republic of China have agreed to recognize each other and to establish
the United States and mainland China established diplomatic relations in January 1979. Fresh from the honeymoon of diplomatic ties, both countries initiated a sister city province program in the same year. The Chinese province Hubei and Ohio were the first pair of sister provinces states, while the Chinese city Nanjing and St. Louis became the first pair of sister cities. Beijing shares sisterhood with both Washington, D.C. and New York City. Oakland in California alone has 17 friendship sister cities in China. The U.S. Sister Cities movement started in 1956. In January of that year, President Eisenhower held the White House Conference on Citizen Diplomacy. President Eisenhower spoke about his belief in local government as a principal bulwark of freedom at the conference. He also talked about his faith in sister city affiliations helping build the solid structure of world peace. This conference formed the capstone of the People-to-People program. The Civic Committee of the People-to-People program evolved into Sister Cities International, SCI, in 1967. SCI is a separate non-profit corporation and the governing body of sister cities in the U.S. After more than 40 years, the Sister City program has continued to expand. The U.S. has developed 277 such sister relations with China. Oakland, California alone has 17 friendship sister cities in China. Beijing shares sisterhood with both Washington, D.C. and New York City. Through the sister city affiliations, China has expanded its influence to dominate various levels of local governments in the U.S. and has become a much stronger opponent challenging the United States. Although sharing the name sister, U.S. sister cities and their Chinese counterparts are not equivalent. How are they different? According to SCI, U.S. sister city organizations are mostly 501c3 nonprofits run by volunteers. They are independent of the U.S. government. On the contrary, in China, under the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, every level of government, province, autonomous region, and county aligns with the CCP's policies and interests. The U.S. sister cities are meant to be helping build the solid structure of world peace. However, the Chinese sister cities are an instrument for the CCP to dismantle the United States. Instead of people-to-people, the U.S.-China sister city affiliations are more people-to-government relationships. Let's have a closer look at the sister city affiliations in China. China pursues sister city affiliations under the Chinese People's Association for Friendship with Foreign Countries, or the Friendship Association. It sounds much like a civil or non-profit organization. It also claims to be such. But it is under the CCP Central Committee. Its staff are all government employees and must be CCP members. It has branches at all levels, from central to provincial and municipal governments. The head of the Friendship Association is appointed by the CCP and maintains close ties with China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs or the CCP United Front Work Department. The latter is to co-opt and neutralize sources of potential opposition to the CCP, both inside and outside of China. For example, the current director of the Friendship Association is a former ambassador in South Africa. Over 60 years ago, the CCP regarded this ostensibly non-governmental diplomacy as an important part of its diplomacy. Former China Premier Zhou Enlai said in 1957, "China's diplomacy is a combination of official, semi-official, and non-governmental diplomacy. Civilian diplomacy is to make friends with people from all over the world and win international sympathy for the Chinese Revolution." Under the oversight of the Friendship Association, Chinese sister cities engage in people diplomacy activities targeting the U.S. local governments. The Hoover Institution's 2019 report pointed out that China's Sister City program is part of China's United Front bureaucratic structure that aims to strengthen the role of the Chinese Communist Party and increase China's influence overseas. Another report also stated that the Sister City program is a practical political tool by the CCP, and all of China's exchange organizations have been assigned political missions. Li Xiaolin was the former president of the Friendship Association from 2011 to 2020. She is the daughter of a former Chinese president. Before she left the Friendship Association, she talked about the role of China's sister cities in the CCP's One Belt, One Road ambition. Friendship City relations have become one of the important channels to implement the Belt and Road Initiative. And sister city relations play an important role in boosting cooperation and exchanges among Chinese and foreign cities under the framework of the Belt and Road Initiative. Through the Sister City affiliations, the CCP establishes student exchanges, art and language residencies, and cultural performances at the local level. All these activities are designed to obtain maximum political returns. Here is a recent example. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the CCP has used the Sister City tie to play its mask diplomacy to diffuse harsh criticism from other countries. The CCP has attempted to cover up or disrupt the international investigation of the pandemic's origin. It has also resorted to the Sister City affiliations and donating masks and protective gear. Ningbo City in China donated to its sister city, Norfolk, Virginia, more than 2,000 masks, 500 protective gowns, and 500 goggles. Anhui Province sent its sister state, Maryland, 100,000 masks. The CCP widely publicized the donations in its propaganda both inside and outside China. These quotes from grateful sister city states in China Daily are perhaps the exact propaganda that the CCP was aiming for. Through sister city affiliations, the CCP has become more aggressive abroad. The CCP has used sister city affiliations to export its human rights violations. According to an internal CCP document of March 31, 2017, local governments were directed to fully utilize every channel of sister cities, improve the quality of the sister city program, and effectively suppress Falun Gong activities abroad. Mobilize influential experts, scholars, journalists, and overseas Chinese community leaders to speak up and strive to have foreign media in the United States and Western countries take a tone more favorable to us on the persecution of Falun Gong and other human rights issues. Falun Gong is a spiritual meditation discipline based on the principles of truth, compassion, and tolerance. The CCP launched a persecution against Falun Gong in July 1999. The persecution continues today. The CCP also uses sister cities to spread its political influence. One can see it in last year's Chinese government action on its sister city. In January 2020, the Czech capital of Prague signed a sister city agreement with Taipei, the capital of Taiwan. The next day, Shanghai cut its sister city relationship with Prague. Over the years, local governments in Europe have become alarmed by the CCP's influence through the sister cities' affiliations. Gothenburg is the second largest city in Sweden, the home of Volvo. The city ended its 34-year-old sister city affiliation with Shanghai in late April 2020. This came after Sweden closed all of its Chinese government-sponsored Confucius Institutes in Sweden. Both moves result from the growing concern over security, human rights abuses, and repression in China. Last July in 2021, a Dutch city, Arnhem, ended its sister city program with Wuhan. The program had been in place for more than 2 decades. The Dutch decision to end the program was over the CCP's abuse of the Uyghur minority in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. What about sister cities in the U.S.? Although European countries are waking up and taking actions to correct the situation, U.S. cities have yet to realize the hidden agenda of their Chinese sister city affiliations. In 2021, Kansas City celebrated its 65th anniversary of the Sister Cities program. Kansas City is a sister city with Ya'an, a city known for its role in CCP history. The Kansas City poster read, "The long march ended near Ya'an in 1935, and the city saw the birth of the Chinese Communist Party." Kansas City journalist Edgar Snow was the first Western journalist to give a full account of this aspect of Chinese history. Doesn't this poster sound like CCP propaganda? Activities and influence of the CCP's sister city affiliations in the United States have alerted U.S. officials. Then Secretary of State Pompeo spoke in September 2020 about foreign policy. He warned that
they fall under the authority of something called the Chinese People's Association of Friendship with Foreign Countries. Sounds benign. But that group is part of China's United Front Work Department, the CCP's official overseas propaganda tool. It may have friendly in its title, but it is not so when it comes to American interests.
In March 2020, U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn introduced Sister City Transparency Act. She was joined by Senators Josh Hawley, Kevin Cramer, Tom Tillis, Marco Rubio, and Roger Marshall introduced. The move was to examine the U.S. and China partnerships.
And so Fox Business is learning that Senator Marsha Blackburn, along with Senators Hawley, Cramer, Tillis, and Rubio, are introducing legislation
Senator
today.
Blackburn said, "Sister cities are strategic partnerships that Beijing brokers to create a foothold in American communities. These partnerships are yet another tool in Beijing's campaign to infiltrate our culture to achieve their economic ends."
Of Russia or of any other country behind that Iron Curtain that is laboring to better the lot of its children, as humans do the world over, to bring it closer into our circle, to show how we do it, and then to sit down between us to say, now how do we improve the lot of both of us? In this way, I believe, is the truest path to peace.
President Eisenhower probably never imagined that his initial goodwill of promoting the people-to-people program might end up becoming a people-to-government program, supporting our adversary. Are China's sister cities really big brothers in disguise?